Now in the splash screen, I want to perform few operations such as identifying if the user is already logged in or not. Okay. So to do that, now this is the right time to change our Firebase rule to the production rule instead of test rule. Okay, if you remember in the one of the part of this video series, I changed that Firebase rule to the allowing everybody to read and write into our application. But now I want to change that and allow only to those people who is logged into our application. Okay, so to make that, I'm gonna go to the Firebase console. Okay, now select on the project that we connected our Android application to. In my case, it is Fire Notes. Now let's go to the database, and here I'm going to change the Firebase rule to the production mode. Okay, so go to the rules, and now I want to change the rule of this Firebase in such a way that only the authenticated user can change the node or add the new node into our application. So for that, I can use colon here, and if request.auth is not equals to null. Okay, so every time when the user logged into our application and try to add or edit the node, it's going to verify that the user is logged in or not. Even the user is using the anonymous authentication account, he is considered as logged in user, so he can add the new node. And once he connect that to the real account, then he is the verified user. Okay, so let's publish these changes. Let's go back to the Android Studio and implement the logic. So I'm going to remove this start new activity class intent here. And here, first thing I want to change is, instance of Firebase auth. So Firebase auth, we have this class because we have added the Firebase authentication dependencies in our application. If you haven't added that one while we were adding the component to this project, you can go to the Firebase here, Firebase Assistant, and from here you can choose the authentication and click on that and add the dependencies here. Okay, so now I'm going to create the variable called fauth. Now I'm going to create the instance of Firebase auth by using the Firebase auth get instance. Now inside this run method, I want to check if the user is already logged in or not. You must remember that we have two kind of user here. One is anonymous user and another one is the real user. So your real user is registered using the email and password, but anonymous user is not anonymous user do not have any username or password or email address. Okay, now I need to get the current user that is present in our application, and I can do that by using get current user of Firebase auth and not equals to null. Okay, so if the current user is not null, user previously had account in our application, so we can send them to the main activity directly. I can start the new activity here. So new intent, get application context, and the main activity dot class. Okay, but in the another case, that is the current user is null, that means user is not present, user do not have any account in our application, or he has not logged into our application previously. That means he is probably creating the account for the first time or opening our application for the first time, or maybe in our case he logged out from the original account. Okay, so in that case I want to create the new anonymous account. Okay, create new anonymous account. So to create the new anonymous account, I can use fauth dot sign in anonymously method. So I can use this sign in anonymously method of Firebase, and now I'm gonna add the event listener, on success listener, new on success listener. And in the case of user successfully creating the anonymous account, we will display the message that says logged in with temporary account, because the anonymous account is temporary account, because if user wants to save that node permanently, then he needs to connect to the real account using email and password. Okay, so you just need to understand that we are creating the anonymous user here which do not have any real data. Okay, now before running this application, I need to make few changes into the database as well as into our application. So let's go ahead and do that. The first change I want to make is into the database, into the Firebase console. Let's go to the authentication tab here. And in the sign in method, we need to enable the email authentication. So email, and enable this email and password authentication. Click on save and we are ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this. Here, since we are making the new user, and in the Firebase console in user sections we don't have any user right now because we have not created any user. So I'm gonna show you guys what happens when somebody create the new anonymous user. Okay, so for that, here I'm gonna run this application and show you guys in real time what happens when somebody create the new temporary account or anonymous account. So let's run this application and follow this. So next few steps are very essential. Okay, it is running here, and one more thing, I forgot to add the start activity here. So I'm gonna copy this, and whenever the new account is created, I want to send the user to the main activity. So run this again, and when this app runs, it's directly going to send me to the main activity. It is still stuck in this splash screen. So let's add one more on failure listener here and see if it is giving any error. So this kind of step is really necessary to debug your application. So you better learn to debug your application correctly. So whatever I'm doing here is debugging this application, and this kind of approach really help you to solve the errors. Okay, so let's add the add-on failure listener, new on failure, and now I want to display the whatever the error that we got. So I'm gonna display the e.get message. Okay, it says the message error and the whatever the error that we got. So let's run this and see if we are getting any particular error. Okay, it says the operation is restricted to admin only. So let's go and fix that. Okay, so we are stuck in this splash screen, and how silly of me that I forgot to enable the anonymous user and I enable the email and password. So in the Firebase authentication here, instead of enabling this email and password, we do need this email and password, but we also need to enable this anonymous user. So I was trying to create the anonymous user and I enabled the email and password. Sorry for that. So let's enable this, click on save, and now our application will create the anonymous user. So let's go back to the users here and make sure that we don't have any user right now. Now let's run this application again. We should be able to create the new anonymous user. Okay, the application is running now and it should display that user is created. Okay, logged in with the temporary account. Okay, it is still display the data, but we'll fix that later. But now let's go to the user section here and refresh this, and it should display the anonymous user. Okay, so it says the identifier is anonymous, the provider is anonymous providers, and the creation date and the user ID. So this user ID is very important because based on this user ID, we are going to save the notes into the database. So okay, the user is created now, and let's see what happens if I close this application and open this again. So I'm going to close the application and open this application again, and it is going to directly send us to the main activity. Okay, it's not going to ask for anything, or it's not going to create the anonymous user because it is already authenticated. Okay, so now let's go and add the logout ability to our application now, because it is the right time to do that. So let's handle this logout. Click on this navigation drawer. So we have handled the navigation drawer event on the main activity, and here somewhere we have the on navigation item selected listener. So this is our on navigation item selected listener. So here I'm gonna add one more case for the logout. So r.id.logout. So whenever somebody click on this logout button, we are going to call the Firebase auth.getInstance.signout. When users sign out from this application, we need to check few things. We need to check if the user is logged in with the anonymous account or the real account. So if the user is logged in with the real account, then we will let them sign out from our application because that's not a problem. But if the user is logged in with the anonymous account, then we need to ask the user that if they are sure or not, because if they sign out from the application with the anonymous account signed in, we will delete all the data related to their anonymous user and we will remove that user as well. So now let's create the new method here that will do all the things that I just said. So check user data or check user. Okay, we'll just create the new method called check user, and I'm going to create this method here now. Okay, and inside this we are going to make, first thing we'll check is that if the user is real or not. Okay, so in our case real user is the one who is having the real email and password connected to our application, and the another one is anonymous user. So if we'll get the current instance of Firebase and get current user, and we can use the isAnonymous method here. So it is going to return 1 or true if the user is anonymous, and it is going to return false if the user is not anonymous or having the real account with us. Okay, so if this method is true, or if this condition is true, we are going to display the dialog here, and that dialog display the warning to the user that if they log out from the application, we will just it will display the warning to the user saying that if they log out without connecting any real account, we are going to delete all the data related to that particular user and they won't be able to access it later. And we will send give them option to log in to our application. So let's do that here. So for that we need AlertDialog, or you know what, I will create one more method that will display the AlertDialog. Okay, so display alert, and that alert will display the warning to the user, and based on that we'll do the sum operation. But if the user is real, we will just log them out of the application. Okay, so to do that I can use Firebase auth.getInstance.signout, and we will send them to the splash screen. So start activity, new intent, this, or get application context, and send them to the splash screen. Okay guys, so let's create the display alert method, and inside that we are going to display the warning to the user, and we'll also let the user have the option to create the new account or log out from the application. So let's create the display alert method inside this main activity. And now to display the alert, we need to use AlertDialog method. We need to use AlertDialog class. So AlertDialog dot builder, and I'm gonna give the variable name as warning. So new AlertDialog dot builder, and now we can add the components to this dialog. So if you remember, or if you know about the typical AlertDialog, they have the title, they have the content, and they have the two buttons that says yes or no. So we'll implement that. So let me add the title first, set title, and here I'm gonna display the message that says are you sure. So I'm asking the user that if they really want to log out from the application. Then I'm gonna set the message. So this message will contain the detail of the warning why we are displaying this AlertDialog to the particular user. So the message says you are logged in with. Okay, now I will add the two buttons, and we can add the buttons by using the method given by the AlertDialog called set positive and set negative. So typically set positive is for the positive response and the set negative is for the negative response, like in the yes or no. Okay, so I'm gonna first use set positive button, and that says here we need to give the name of the button. So we can just give yes, but that is not actually positive. The positive in this context is that user wants to save the notes by connecting to the real account. So I'm going to give the sync nodes option here, sync node, and now I'll add the on-click listener on this positive button so that we can handle the action of the user. So okay, so I need to handle the click event on this sync node. Whenever user wants to sync the node, we'll let he'll click on this node sync node option, and we'll handle that by using new dialog interface dot on click listener. Now we have this on click method here, and inside this I need to handle the sync node operation. So whenever user wants to sync the node, that means he don't have any account in our application, so we'll send him to the register new account activity. So I'll use start activity and create new intent, get the application context, and the destination is register.class. okay, so that user can create the new account, and I'll finish this activity so that user will not be able to come back to our application or to this page. Okay, so now I'll also add the negative button. So in case when user wants to log out from our application, then it will display the logout, and we need to handle this operation as well. So on dialog, on click listener, and inside this we need to perform few operations. So operations like first we need to delete all the nodes created by the anonymous user, okay, currently logged in user. And second thing we need to do is delete the anon user. So we'll delete this anonymous user as well. Okay, so this is the two things that we need to perform, and after that we'll build this. Okay, and now after that we will display this warning to the user. So let's do this operation here inside in logout button. So we need to delete all the nodes created by the user. To delete all the nodes created by the user, we need to go to the collections, and there we need to identify the user based on the user ID, and whatever the nodes are present inside that, we will delete that. But if you remember, we don't have that kind of collections in our Firebase right now, because let me go to the database here and show you guys that we have one collection. So this is the node collection, and inside it we are directly creating the nodes. But to delete the node of the particular user, we need to have the collections which we can identify based on the ID of the currently logged in user. So we need to implement that first, but we are not going to do that right now. Maybe we'll do that in the next part. But currently we can delete the user, and the user is present in the authentication panel here, and we need to delete that user from here. Okay, so we'll do this deleting all the nodes created by the anon user later, but for now we'll just delete the user. So to delete the user, we need to get the Firebase user object first. So Firebase user, name the object as user, and now I'll use Firebase auth to get the current user. And now I can delete this user using the delete method of this Firebase user object, and I'll add the on success listener. And if the user is deleted successfully, then we will redirect the user to the main activity. When the user is deleted successfully, we will send him to the splash screen. So I'll start the new activity here. So start activity, new intent, get application context, and the destination is splash screen dot class, and finish this activity as well, so that user will not be able to come back to this main activity. Okay, we do have error here. So here I need to pass the context, so I'm going to pass this. All right, now if I run this application and try to log out from our application, we will see the message that says, are you sure? Yeah, if you are logged, because we are currently logged into the temporary account. Okay, and we had implemented that logic. Okay, we are first checking if the user is anonymous or not. If the user is anonymous, we are displaying the alert. If the user is not anonymous, we are just directly signing them out and sending them to the splash screen, and finish this as well. All right, so let's run this application and see in action. Okay, we are logged into our application now, And now if I go to the navigation drawer here and click on logout, it's going to display the, okay, our application crashed. So let's see what happened. So it says the anonymous is on the null object reference. Okay, so let's fix that here. I'm going to create the user object here. So Firebase user, and now I'll initialize this just after the here. So, and we also need the Firebase auth as well because we don't have that. So let me create that as well and initialize the both Firebase user and Firebase auth here. So fauth equals to Firebase auth dot get instance. All right, and now I can initialize the user using the fauth dot get current user. Okay, and now we should be able to use this user here in the warning. So let me go back there, and here I'll use user dot is anonymous. Okay, and here we can directly use the user instead of creating this instance. So user dot delete. Okay, now let's run these applications and hope that it's going to run without giving any exception. Okay, it is launching the activity. Now we are logged into the temporary account. Now let's click on the logout button, and it says it is coming soon. So let's go back here. Okay, I forgot to add the break, so I'll add the break button here, break statement here, and after that I will remove this sign out from here. Okay, and we are just going to check the user because we are performing the sign out operation inside that check user function. So we have this check user here, and we are performing if the user is anonymous, we are displaying the alert and deleting the user and logging them out. If not, we are directly logging them out. All right, so I will run this application again, and we should be able to log out the user or display the alert message using the AlertDialog. Okay, let's do that. Okay, it's going to create the new anonymous account now because I signed out there. And now if I go to the logout, okay, when I click on logout, it's not doing anything. It's maybe because I may have not displayed. Okay, instead of create, let's use the show, and I also want to close this navigation drawer whenever we click on this button here. Okay, any of this button. So I can do that inside this on navigation item selected listener. So let's call the drawer layout and close drawer, and here I need to set the gravity compat or gravity. So I'll use the gravity compat dot start. Okay, it's going to close that. So let's run this application again, and hopefully it's going to work. It's launching the activity now. Okay, so we are logged in here. Now I'm going to click on this logout button, and it is displaying the AlertDialog here, and we have two options here, logout and the sync node. And if I click on sync node, it's going to send me to the register activity here, and if I press on the back button, it is directly going to the splash screen. So that is because in the splash screen, when I start the new activity here, I need to finish this because I don't want the user to come back to the splash screen again. So I'm gonna add the finish after this start activity. Okay, and let's run this again. Okay, we are here, and now if I click on logout, it's going to display this message, and if I click on logout, it's going to delete the user, and it's going to sign into our application again, or it's going to splash screen and it's going to come back to the main activity again. Okay, so click on logout, it is going to the main activity, splash screen activity, and it is creating the new account. Okay, so it might be a little confusing to you guys. Don't worry, You will understand it once we'll start connecting the database and once we'll create the user specific collections in the database. For now, if you are a little confused, it's okay, because it is kind of advanced technique that we are using here. So this is it for this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Bye bye, have a great day.